Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Iron Will, watching the stars through the thick glass window. His hands rested on the metal rail as he looked at the cargo hold readings on his screen. 3 months of hard work in the asteroid belt had paid off. The ship was full of rare metals that would feed his crew's families for a year. "Captain, we're 2 days out from Earth space," said Tom, the ship's engineer. He was a big man with oil-stained hands and a kind face. "Engines are running smooth," Jake nodded. The Iron Will was not a pretty ship. She was built for work, not for looks. Her hull was thick steel painted gray, and her engines were loud. But she was strong, and she had never let them down. "Good work, Tom," Jake said. "Tell the crew we'll be home soon." Lisa, the pilot, sat at her controls near the front of the bridge. She was young but skilled, and Jake trusted her to fly them through anything. "Captain," she called out, "I'm seeing something strange on the sensors." Jake walked over to look at her screen. Small dots appeared at the edge of their scanner range. They were moving fast and coming their way. "How many?" Jake asked. 6 ships, maybe 7, Lisa said. Her voice was tight with worry. "They're not showing any friendly signals." Jake felt his stomach drop. Out here in the outer rim, far from Earth's protection, meeting unknown ships was never good news. He had heard stories from other captains about pirates and worse things that hunted in the dark space between systems. "Ben, get on the comm and try to contact them," Jake ordered. Ben was their communications officer, a thin man who could speak 4 different alien languages. Ben worked his controls for several minutes. "Captain, they're not answering our calls, but I'm picking up their language. It's Velkari." Jake's blood went cold. Every human who worked the Outer Rim knew about the Velkari Dominion. They were a race of tall, gray-skinned aliens who had been taking over star systems for the past 50 years. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They conquered. "Red alert," Jake said quietly. "All hands to battle stations." The Iron Will was not a warship. She had mining lasers and some basic shields, but against real military vessels she would not last long. Jake's crew of 6 humans was brave, but they were miners, not soldiers. The alien ships came closer. Through the bridge window, Jake could see them now. They were long and silver, shaped like knives cutting through space. Each one was twice the size of the Iron Will, and they moved with deadly grace. "Incoming transmission," Ben said. "Put it on speaker." The voice that filled the bridge was deep and cold. It spoke in broken human English with a strange accent. "Human. Vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. You will surrender your cargo and your crew will submit to processing." Jake grabbed the comm microphone. "This is Captain Morrison of the Iron Will. We are a peaceful mining vessel returning to Earth space. We have done nothing wrong." A harsh laugh came through the speaker. "Wrong? You exist in space that belongs to the Velkari Dominion. That is wrong enough. You have 30 seconds to comply or we will take your ship by force." Jake looked around his bridge. Tom stood ready at the engineering station, his face grim but determined. Lisa had her hands on the flight controls, waiting for orders. Ben monitored the communications, and Jake could see the other crew members on the internal screens, all at their posts. These were good people. They had families waiting for them back on Earth. Children who needed their fathers and mothers to come home. Jake had promised to bring them all back safely. 20 seconds, human," the alien voice said. Jake keyed the comm again. "Velkari Commander, we will not surrender. This ship and her crew are under the protection of Earth's merchant marine. Any attack on us is an act of war." Another laugh. "War? Your pathetic planet is light years away. No one will even know what happened to you. 10 seconds. Jake turned to his crew. "All right, people. They want to fight, we'll give them one. Tom, give me everything the engines have. Lisa, random evasive pattern. Ben, send a distress signal toward Earth on all frequencies." "Yes, sir," they all said together. The countdown reached 0. Jake waited for the alien ships to fire, but instead, something else happened. A strange purple cloud began to leak from the air vents throughout the ship. "Captain," Tom shouted from engineering. Something's wrong with our air system. Unknown gas is flooding all sections. Jake could smell it now. It was sweet and thick, like rotting flowers. The purple mist filled the bridge quickly, and Jake felt it burn his throat when he breathed. "Masks," he ordered, but it was too late. The gas was everywhere, and there was nowhere to run. Ben fell to his knees, his eyes wide with terror. No, no, he whispered. "They're coming for me. The dark things are coming." Lisa screamed and pushed away from her controls. "The ship is falling. We're going to crash. I can't stop it." Tom was backing against the wall, swinging his wrench at empty air. "Get away from me, the engines are going to explode." Jake watched his crew fall apart as the fear gas did its work. Each person was seeing their worst nightmares come to life. Their fears were so real to them that they could not think or act normally. The alien voice came through the comm again, now filled with satisfaction. "You see, humans? This is Velkari fear gas. It has broken the will of 1,000 species. No being can resist its power. Your minds are now ours to control." Jake breathed in the purple mist and waited for the fear to take him. He thought about what scared him most: losing his crew, failing in his duty, dying alone in space. But something strange happened. The fear did not come. Instead, Jake felt calm. He looked at his crew members, who were trapped in their own personal hells, and he felt only determination. This ship was his responsibility. These people were his responsibility. He keyed the comm and spoke clearly into the microphone. "Velkari Commander, you have made a mistake." "Impossible," the alien voice sputtered. "The gas concentration is at maximum levels. You should be insane with fear." Jake walked over to Lisa, who was curled up on the floor, shaking. He put his hand on her shoulder. "Lisa, look at me. You're safe. The ship is fine. Trust me." Something in his voice, his complete lack of fear, cut through her gas-induced nightmare. She looked up at him and her breathing began to slow. "The readings are wrong," the Velkari commander said, and Jake could hear confusion in the alien's voice. "Increase the gas concentration. This human must be broken." More purple mist poured from the vents. Jake breathed it in deeply and smiled. "You want to know what I'm afraid of?" he said into the comm. "I'm afraid of letting my crew down. I'm afraid of not getting them home to their families. But you know what? That fear doesn't make me weak." He moved to Ben next, helping him stand. "It makes me strong." The Velkari ships hung in space around the Iron Will, their crews struggling to understand what they were seeing. Their most powerful weapon, the fear gas that had conquered worlds, was having no effect on this one human. And somehow his strength was spreading to his crew. Jake looked out at the alien ships through the bridge window. The Iron Will was still outnumbered and outgunned. The fight was far from over, but for the first time since the Velkari had appeared, Jake felt like they had a chance. "Tom," he called to his engineer, who was now standing straighter, his fear fading. "How are those engines?" Tom checked his readings and grinned. "Running hot and ready, Captain. Lisa, can you fly us out of here?" The young pilot was back at her controls, her hands steady. "Just give me the word, sir." Jake keyed the comm one more time. "Velkari, Commander, let me tell you something about humans. We've been afraid since the day we first looked up at the stars. Fear is what made us build ships to cross the void. Fear is what made us explore the unknown. Fear is what makes us fight when everything seems hopeless." He paused and looked around his bridge at his crew, all of them now standing ready. "This ship is strong," Jake said. "We are strong, and we're going home." General Thack stood in the command center of his flagship, the Dark Spear. His gray skin was pulled tight over sharp bones, and his black eyes stared at the screens showing the human ship. For 50 years, he had conquered worlds for the Velkari Dominion. Never had he seen a being resist the fear gas. "Increase the concentration," he ordered his weapons officer. "Double it." "Sir, that level of gas could kill them," the officer said. "Better dead than defiant," Thax replied coldly. On the Iron Will, More purple mist poured from every vent. The air became so thick that Jake could barely see across the bridge. His crew coughed and choked on the sweet burning gas, but Jake felt nothing except determination. He walked through the purple fog to where Tom was standing. The big engineer was shaking his head, fighting off visions of exploding engines and burning metal. "Tom, listen to my voice," Jake said calmly. "The engines are fine. Check your readings." Tom looked at his control panel with frightened eyes. In his gas-clouded mind, he saw red warning lights and damage alerts, but Jake's steady voice cut through the fear like a knife through cloth. I see the readings, Captain," Tom said slowly. "All green, all normal." "That's right. The ship is strong, just like us." Jake moved to the navigation station where Ben was curled up in his chair. The communications officer was mumbling in 3 different languages, his hands covering his ears as if trying to block out terrible sounds. "Ben," Jake said, putting his hand on the man's shoulder. "What do you hear?" "Voices," Ben whispered. "Screaming voices. The aliens are in my head, Captain. They're telling me terrible things." Jake looked at the communication controls. The Velkari were indeed sending psychological warfare signals along with their gas, but Jake could hear them clearly. They were just alien words meant to frighten. "Those aren't voices in your head, Ben. They're just alien broadcasts. You've heard alien languages before. Remember when we traded with the peaceful Centauri merchants last year?" Ben's breathing slowed. He looked up at Jake's calm face through the purple mist. Yes, I remember. They sounded strange too, but they were just talking." "Exactly. Block their signals and focus on our comm systems." Across the bridge, Lisa was pressed against the pilot controls, her eyes closed tight. She was the youngest of the crew, only 25 years old. The fear gas was showing her visions of ship crashes, of floating dead in space, of never seeing her baby daughter again. "Lisa," Jake called softly. "Captain, I can't fly," she said without opening her eyes. "Every time I touch the controls, I see us crashing. I see us dying." Jake moved to stand beside her chair. Around them, the purple gas swirled like a living thing, but his voice remained steady and strong. "Lisa, do you remember the first time you flew a ship?" "Yes," she whispered. "You were scared then too, weren't you?" "Terrified. But you flew anyway. You became the best pilot I've ever worked with. Fear didn't stop you then, and it won't stop you now." Lisa opened her eyes and looked at Jake. In the purple mist, his face was calm and confident. No fear touched him at all. "How are you doing this, Captain?" she asked. "How are you not afraid?" Jake smiled. "I am afraid, Lisa. I'm afraid of failing you and the crew. I'm afraid of not getting you home to your daughter. But being afraid doesn't mean being weak." On the Velkari flagship, General Thax watched his screens in growing anger. The gas readings showed deadly levels throughout the human ship, but the captain was moving freely, helping his crew recover. "This is impossible," Thax growled. "No species can resist our fear gas. We have used it on the warrior races of Antares, the hive minds of Vega, the ancient beings of the outer dark. All of them broke." His science officer, a thin Velkari named Vex, studied the readings carefully. "General, the human's brain patterns are unusual. The gas is reaching him, but instead of triggering fear responses, it seems to be making him more focused." "More focused? That makes no sense." "Sir, perhaps we should study this further, if humans can resist our primary weapon." "No," Thax said sharply. "We will break this human and his crew, triple the gas concentration." On the human ship, the purple mist became so thick that it looked like purple water. Jake's crew struggled to breathe, but something strange was happening. As Jake moved among them, speaking calmly and confidently, their fear was fading. The medic, Doc Allen, was crouched in the corner of the bridge, seeing visions of diseases and death everywhere he looked. But when Jake knelt beside him, the old man's panic began to fade. "Doc, we need you," Jake said simply. "The crew needs their medic." "I can't," Doc whispered. "The gas. I see sickness everywhere. I see death." You've seen real sickness and real death before, Doc. You've saved lives in worse conditions than this. Remember when Tom broke his arm in the asteroid belt and you operated in zero gravity? Doc's eyes focused on Jake's face. Yes, I remember. I saved him. You did. And you'll save us all now. The last crew member on the bridge was Mary, their cargo specialist. She was young and strong, but the gas made her see terrible visions of losing everything they had worked for. Captain, she called out, the cargo bay, it's all gone. The aliens have taken everything. Jake walked to the cargo control station. The readings showed their mining hull was still secure in the ship's hold. Mary, look at the real readings, not what the gas makes you see. She looked at the screen with shaking hands. It's all there. All of it. That's right. We haven't lost anything yet. General Thax watched in disbelief as the human captain moved through his ship, somehow making the fear gas useless. The other humans were starting to stand up straight, to work at their stations again. General, his science officer said quietly, our psychological warfare division should study this. These humans might be— Enough, Thax roared. If gas will not break them, we will use force. All ships, prepare to board the human vessel. But as he gave the order, something unexpected happened. The human captain's voice came through the communication system, clear and strong. Velkari General, I want to thank you. Thank me? Thax was so surprised he almost laughed. Yes, your fear gas has shown my crew something important. It's shown them that fear is just another challenge to overcome. We humans have been overcoming fear for thousands of years. Jake stood on his bridge, surrounded by his crew who were now working normally despite the thick purple gas around them. Tom was checking engine systems. Lisa had her hand steady on the flight controls. Ben was monitoring alien communications. Doc was checking everyone's health readings. Mary was securing their cargo. You see, Jake continued, humans didn't become space travelers because we were brave. We became space travelers because we were afraid. We were afraid of staying on one world. We were afraid of the unknown. We were afraid of being alone in the universe. The Velkari ships moved closer, preparing to dock with the mining vessel. But we learned something about fear, Jake said. Fear isn't meant to stop us. Fear is meant to make us ready. It makes us careful. It makes us strong. It makes us fight harder when everything seems lost. General Thax felt something he had not felt in many years of conquest. He felt uncertain. Impossible, he said. Fear is weakness. We have proven this on 100 worlds. Maybe on 100 worlds, Jake replied. But not on this ship. This ship is human. We are human. And humans get stronger when we're afraid. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all standing ready, their fear transformed into determination. Tom, how are those engines? Running hot and ready, Captain. Want me to give them full power? Lisa, can you get us out of here? Just say the word, Captain. I can fly through anything. Jake smiled and opened the ship's communication to all frequencies so every Velkari ship could hear him clearly. General Thax, let me tell you what's going to happen next. We're going to fly out of here. We're going to take our cargo home. And we're going to tell everyone in human space that the great Velkari fear gas doesn't work on us. He paused, letting that sink in. In fact, it makes us stronger. The purple gas still filled the air around them, but the crew of the Iron Will stood ready for whatever came next. They had faced their fears and won. General Thax stared at his screens in complete shock. The readings showed that the fear gas concentration inside the human ship was now at 5 times the lethal dose. Any other species would be dead by now, not just afraid. Yet the humans were, working at their stations as if nothing had happened. Sir, his weapons officer said nervously, perhaps we should reconsider. These humans are not like the others we have conquered. Silence, Thax snapped. They are just primitive beings from a backwater planet. There must be something wrong with our gas mixture. But even as he said it, Thax knew the truth. In 50 years of conquest, the Velkari fear gas had never failed. It had broken the minds of warrior races that had fought for thousands of years. It had destroyed the will of ancient civilizations. Yet these simple human miners were not only surviving it, they seemed to be getting stronger. On the iron will, Jake walked slowly around his bridge. The purple mist was so thick now that it looked like they were underwater, but his crew was working better than they had in months. Ben, what are the aliens saying to each other? Jake asked. Ben listened to his communication equipment for a moment, then smiled. Captain, they're arguing. Some of them want to retreat. They're calling us the impossible humans. Good, Jake said. Lisa, how are our engines? All systems. Green, Captain. Tom's got them running perfectly. Tom wiped sweat from his forehead, but he was grinning. I've never felt the engines respond like this before. It's like the ship wants to fight. Jake nodded. The iron will was more than just metal and machines to him. She was home. She was family. And no one threatened his family. Mary, secure all cargo. We might need to move fast. Already done, Captain, Mary replied. Everything's locked down tight. Doc Allen was checking everyone's health readings on his medical scanner. Captain, this is strange. The gas should be killing us, but everyone's vital signs are actually improving. Heart rates are steady, breathing is normal, brain activity is, well, it's better than normal. Jake wasn't surprised. He had felt it too. The fear gas wasn't hurting them anymore. Instead, it was like fuel for a fire that was already burning inside them. On the Velkari flagship, Science Officer Vex was studying the human readings with growing excitement and terror. General, he said quietly, I think I understand what's happening. Explain, Thax demanded. The fear gas works by finding what a being is most afraid of and making it seem real. But humans are different. They don't try to avoid their fears. They face them. That's impossible. Fear is the most basic survival instinct. Yes, sir. But humans seem to use fear as motivation. The captain is afraid of failing his crew, so he becomes a better leader. The pilot is afraid of crashing, so she flies more carefully. The engineer is afraid of the engines failing, so he makes them run perfectly. Thax felt something cold in his stomach. You're saying they turn fear into strength? Yes, sir. And our gas is giving them more fear to work with. On the human ship, Jake opened the communication channel to the Velkari fleet. General Thax, are you listening? I am listening, human, Thax replied, his voice tight with anger. I want to tell you a story, Jake said calmly. A long time ago, humans lived in caves. We were small and weak. Big animals hunted us. We were afraid all the time. The Velkari ships hung in space around the iron will, their crews listening despite themselves. We could have stayed in those caves forever, Jake continued. We could have hidden from everything that scared us, but instead we came out. We made fire to fight the darkness we feared. We made tools to fight the animals that hunted us. We built cities to protect ourselves from the storms we feared. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all listening, too, and he could see pride in their faces. Then we looked up at the night sky and saw all those stars, Jake said. We were terrified of that endless dark space. So naturally we built ships and came out here to explore it. General Thax felt his certainty cracking. Your point, human? My point is simple, General. Fear doesn't make humans weak. Fear makes humans dangerous. Jake walked to the pilot station where Lisa sat ready at the controls. Lisa, remember when you first learned to fly? What were you most afraid of? Crashing, Captain, she said loud enough for the aliens to hear. And what did that fear make you do? Practice more, study harder, learn every system on the ship. Tom, Jake called to his engineer. What scares you most about engines? That they'll break down when the crew needs them most, Tom replied. So what do? Check every system 3 times. Keep spare parts for everything. Know every bolt and wire. Jake smiled. You see, General? Our fears don't control us. We control our fears. We use them to become better than we were. On the Velkari flagship, Science Officer Vex was reading more data. General, their ship's performance is actually improving. Their engines are running more efficiently. Their navigation is more precise. Their communication systems are working better than our own. How is that possible? Because they're not fighting their fear, sir. They're using it. General Thax made a decision that would change everything. All ships, prepare to board the human vessel. If gas will not break them, we will take them by force. The 6 Velkari warships moved closer to the Iron Will. Docking tubes extended from their hulls like the arms of a giant spider. Jake watched them approach. Well, crew, they want to come aboard. Should we let them, Captain? Ben asked with a grin. Why not? It would be rude to keep our guests waiting. Jake turned to his crew. Remember, we're miners, not soldiers. But we're human miners. And humans have been fighting off things that wanted to hurt them since the beginning of time. Tom picked up his heavy wrench. I've got tools. Lisa stood up from her pilot seat. I've got reflexes. Ben checked his communication equipment. I can jam their signals. Doc Allen opened his medical kit. I know exactly where all their vital organs should be. Mary hefted a piece of mining equipment. I've got a plasma cutter. Jake nodded. And I've got the best crew in human space. The first Velkari boarding tube connected to the Iron Will with a loud clang. Through the ship's internal cameras, they could see gray-skinned aliens in black armor moving through the tube. Remember, Jake said calmly, they expect us to be afraid. They expect us to run and hide. They've conquered 100 worlds by making other species too scared to fight back. The airlock door began to glow as the aliens cut through it with their weapons. But we're not other species, Jake continued. We're humans. And the more scared we get, the more dangerous we become. The airlock door fell inward with a crash. Velkari soldiers poured through, their weapons ready, expecting to find cowering prisoners. Instead, they found Jake Morrison standing calmly in the corridor, his hands empty, his face showing no fear at all. Welcome aboard the Iron Will, Jake said politely. I hope you brought more than just fear gas. Behind him, his crew stood ready. The purple mist still filled the air around them, but instead of weakening them, it had made them into something the Velkari had never faced before. Humans who were more dangerous because they were afraid. The lead Velkari soldier raised his weapon, but something in Jake's calm confidence made him hesitate. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a being look at him without fear. You should be terrified, the soldier said in broken human speech. Jake smiled. I am terrified. That's what makes this so much fun. What happened next would become a legend told throughout the galaxy about the day the Velkari Dominion learned that some species get stronger when they're afraid, and that humans are the most dangerous of all when they have something to protect. The lead Velkari soldier stood in the corridor, his weapon pointed at Jake's chest. Behind him, 12 more alien warriors filled the narrow space. They were tall and lean, with gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. Their black armor gleamed under the ship's lights, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Jake looked at them calmly. The purple fear gas still swirled around them all, but it might as well have been normal air to him. You know what I'm thinking right now? Jake said to the alien soldier. You are thinking of surrender, the Velkari replied in his broken human speech. No, Jake said with a small smile. I'm thinking that you made a big mistake coming onto my ship. The soldier's finger tightened on his weapon trigger. You are one human. We are many. You should be afraid. I am afraid, Jake said honestly. I'm afraid you're going to hurt my crew. I'm afraid you're going to take our cargo that we worked 3 months to gather. I'm afraid my people won't get home to their families. The alien looked confused. Beings who were afraid were supposed to beg for mercy, not stand there talking calmly. Then you will surrender, the soldier said. No, Jake replied. See, that's where you don't understand humans. Being afraid doesn't make us give up. Being afraid makes us fight harder. Jake raised his voice so his crew could hear him throughout the ship. Now. What happened next was like a carefully planned dance. Tom, the engineer, had been hiding around the corner. He swung his heavy wrench at the lead soldier's weapon, knocking it from his hands. The alien was strong, but Tom was stronger, and he was fighting for his life. Lisa dropped through a maintenance hatch above the aliens. She had always been afraid of heights, so she had learned to move through the ship's crawlways better than anyone. She landed behind the Velkari soldiers and hit the emergency door controls, sealing half of them in the corridor. Ben's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Attention alien boarders. Your communication with your ships has been cut. Your backup is not coming. You are alone on a human ship." Doc Allen appeared from a side passage holding a medical laser. "I've studied alien anatomy," he called out. "I know exactly where your major organs are located." Mary came up from the cargo hold, carrying a mining plasma cutter. The tool was designed to cut through solid rock, and it hummed with dangerous energy. The Velkari soldiers found themselves separated and surrounded. This was not how their conquests usually went. Other species ran in terror when they boarded their ships. These humans were hunting them. General Thax watched through his soldiers' helmet cameras in growing horror. "This is impossible," he said. "They are miners, not warriors." Science Officer Vex was studying the readings from inside the human ship. "General, their fear levels are actually increasing, but instead of making them weaker, it's making them more focused, more dangerous." "How can fear make them more dangerous?" "Sir, I think I'm beginning to understand. Other species fear death, so they avoid fighting. But humans fear failure more than death. They fear letting down their friends more than dying themselves." On the ship, Jake faced the lead Velkari soldier in hand-to-hand combat. The alien was trained for war, but Jake was fighting for something more important than victory. He was fighting for his crew. The soldier swung his armored fist at Jake's head. Jake ducked and grabbed the alien's arm, using his own momentum to throw him against the wall. Years of hard work and zero gravity had made Jake stronger than he looked. "You cannot defeat us all," the soldier gasped. "Maybe not," Jake agreed. "But I don't have to defeat you all. I just have to make you understand that attacking humans is more trouble than it's worth." In the engine room, Tom was facing 3 Velkari soldiers. They had superior weapons and armor, but Tom knew every inch of his ship. He led them into a trap near the main power coupling, then triggered an electromagnetic pulse that disabled their weapons and made their armor too heavy to move quickly. "Sorry, boys," Tom said, hefting his wrench, "but nobody messes with my engines." Lisa was in the ship's upper levels, using the maintenance tunnels to move around the aliens like a ghost. Every time they thought they had her cornered, she would disappear through a hatch they didn't know existed. She had always been afraid of small spaces, so she had learned to master them. In the communication center, Ben was doing something the Velkari had never experienced. He was turning their own psychological warfare against them. Using their radio frequencies, he was broadcasting images and sounds from human history, battles where humans had fought against impossible odds and won. "See this?" Ben's voice came through their helmet speakers, showing them footage of humans fighting in space battles. "These are what you're dealing with. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We get stronger when we're scared." The Velkari soldiers began to understand something terrible. They were not fighting a species that feared them. They were fighting a species that used fear as a weapon. Doc Allen had cornered 2 aliens in the medical bay. Instead of running from them, he was calmly explaining human biology while he treated a small cut on his hand. "You see," he said as the aliens pointed their weapons at him, "humans have this thing called adrenaline. When we get scared, our bodies produce it. Makes us faster, stronger, more alert. Your fear gas just makes us produce more of it." He finished bandaging his hand and looked up at them. "So really, you've just made us all superhuman? Thanks for that." Mary was in the cargo hold protecting their 3 months of hard work. 5 Velkari soldiers had tried to secure the area, but Mary knew every container, every piece of equipment. She used the mining tools like a master craftsman, cutting through their weapons with precision strikes. "This cargo represents food for our families," she told them as she worked. "You want to take food from human children? Then you'd better be ready for a fight." Back in the main corridor, Jake was still facing the leader. The alien was skilled, but Jake was desperate, and desperate humans were the most dangerous humans of all. "Why do you not break?" the soldier demanded as they grappled. "The fear gas should destroy your mind." "Because," Jake said, throwing the alien against the wall again. I'm not fighting you because I'm not afraid. I'm fighting you because I am afraid. I'm afraid of what happens to my crew if I lose. General Thax watched his trained soldiers being defeated by miners and engineers. On every screen he saw the same thing. Humans who were more dangerous because they were terrified, not less dangerous. General, Science Officer Vex said quietly, we should retreat. Retreat? From a single mining ship? Sir, we've lost 12 soldiers to 6 humans. Our fear gas made them stronger instead of weaker. They're not fighting like any species we've ever encountered. On the human ship, Jake's voice came through the communication system, speaking directly to the Velkari fleet. General Thax, your soldiers are brave, but they don't understand what they're fighting. They're not fighting humans who are fearless. They're fighting humans who are terrified and have decided to do something about it. Jake looked around at his crew. Tom was standing over 3 unconscious aliens, his wrench still in his hand. Lisa had captured 2 more using the ship's own systems against them. Mary had secured the cargo hold completely. Doc had somehow convinced his aliens to surrender by explaining how much damage human adrenaline could do. Ben had turned the rest into a confused, demoralized group who no longer believed in their own superiority. You see, General, Jake continued, your mistake was thinking that fear makes humans weak. But fear is what drove us out of caves and into space. Fear is what makes us build better ships, better weapons, better lives for our children. Jake walked to the bridge, stepping over defeated Velkari soldiers. Fear is what makes us human. And humans, when they're afraid for something they love, are the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. He sat down in his captain's chair and looked at the screens showing the Velkari fleet. Now, would you like to discuss letting us go home? Or would you like to send more of your soldiers over here to learn about human fear? General Thax stared at his command screens in complete silence. Half of his boarding party was unconscious. The other half was trapped on the human ship, their weapons disabled, their confidence broken. In 50 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. General, his communications officer said nervously, the humans are requesting to speak with you. Put them through, Thax said, his voice barely a whisper. Jake's calm face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Iron Will looked normal except for the purple gas still swirling in the air, and the unconscious Velkari soldiers on the floor. General Thax, Jake said politely, I believe you have something that belongs to us. What? Time. You've wasted almost an hour of our journey home. My crew has families waiting for them. Thax felt something crack inside his mind. This human was treating the defeat of a Velkari boarding party like a minor inconvenience. You defeated my soldiers, Thax said. We defended ourselves, Jake corrected. There's a difference. We're not conquerors, General. We're just people trying to get home. Science Officer Vex leaned close to his general. Sir, perhaps we should consider negotiation. These humans are clearly not like other species. Negotiation? Thax laughed bitterly. With miners? General, Jake said, overhearing the conversation. Let me save you some time. You're thinking about sending more soldiers. You're thinking about using bigger weapons. You're thinking that if you just apply enough force, we'll break like every other species you've conquered. Jake stood up from his captain's chair and walked closer to the screen. But here's what you don't understand about humans. The more you threaten us, the more dangerous we become. The more afraid you make us, the harder we fight. You can't break us with fear because fear is what makes us strong. On the Velkari flagship, the crew was listening to every word. For the first time in their military careers, they were hearing someone speak to their general as an equal. Impossible, Thax said. Fear is weakness. We have proven this across the galaxy. Have you? Jake asked. Or have you just been picking on species that were already weak? Tell me, General, when was the last time you fought someone who fought back? Thax thought about it. Every conquest had been the same. Deploy the fear gas, watch the enemy break, move in to claim victory. Simple, clean, efficient. That's what I thought, Jake continued. You've gotten used to easy victories, General, but humans don't do easy. Jake turned to his crew. Tom, how are our engines? Running better than ever, Captain, Tom replied loudly enough for the aliens to hear. The fear gas seems to have made everything work more efficiently. Lisa, navigation? Course plotted for Earth, Captain, ready to leave any time you give the word. Ben, communications? All frequencies clear, Captain, and I've been recording this entire conversation. The folks back home are going to be very interested in meeting the Velkari Dominion. General Thax felt something cold in his stomach. If word got back to human space that their fear gas didn't work on humans, that their soldiers could be defeated by miners. You cannot be allowed to leave, Thax said. General, Jake said sadly, you still don't get it. You can't stop us from leaving. You had your chance when you outnumbered us and had surprise on your side. Now we know what you can do, and you know what we can do. Jake gestured to the screens showing the Velkari soldiers scattered throughout his ship. Your best warriors, your most powerful weapon, your psychological warfare. None of it worked. What makes you think anything else will? We have superior numbers, Thax said desperately. Numbers don't matter if you can't use them effectively. You have 6 warships, but they're all designed around the idea that your enemies will be too afraid to fight back. What happens when your enemy gets stronger because they're afraid? Jake was right, and Thax knew it. Velkari military doctrine was based entirely on psychological dominance. Their ships were built to look terrifying. Their weapons were designed to cause fear. Their tactics relied on enemy surrender rather than actual combat. Doc, Jake called out, how are our guests doing? Doc Allen's voice came through the ship's speakers. The ones who are awake are asking about human anatomy, Captain. They want to know how we can function with so much adrenaline in our systems. Mary, cargo status? Secure and ready for transport, Captain. Not one piece of equipment was damaged during the boarding action. Jake turned back to General Thax. You see, General, we didn't just survive your attack, we didn't just defend ourselves. We did our jobs. While your soldiers were trying to conquer us, my crew was keeping our ship running, protecting our cargo, and getting ready to go home. That's impossible. You should have been paralyzed with fear. We were afraid, Jake agreed. I was terrified we might not make it home. Tom was afraid the engines might fail. Lisa was afraid she might crash the ship. Doc was afraid someone might get hurt. Mary was afraid we might lose our cargo. Jake smiled. So we all did our jobs better than we've ever done them before. On the Velkari flagship, Science Officer Vex was working frantically at his station. General, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the human ship. Weapons? Thax asked. Hopefully. No, sir. They're engines. They're preparing to leave. General Thax realized he had a choice to make. He could order his ships to attack, to try to destroy the human vessel. But if he failed, and after what he had seen, failure seemed likely, word would spread that the mighty Velkari Dominion had been defeated by a single human mining ship. Or he could let them go and hope that no one would believe their story. General, Jake said, reading his thoughts, you're wondering if you should let us leave or try to destroy us to keep your secret. How did you? Because I'm afraid you might make the wrong choice. So I'm thinking very clearly right now. Here's the thing, General. If you let us go, we'll tell people about today, but they might not believe us. One mining ship versus a whole fleet? Sounds crazy, right? Jake leaned forward. But if you attack us now and lose even one of your ships, everyone in the galaxy will know that humans can defeat the Velkari. Which choice sounds better to you? General Thax looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. For the first time in his military career, he was unsure what to do. We will let you pass, he said finally. Thank you, General, Jake said. Oh, and one more thing. Your soldiers will be returned to you unharmed. We'll put them in escape pods at the edge of this system. You are releasing them? We're not killers, General. We're just people who don't like being threatened. Jake turned to his crew. All right, everyone, let's go home. The Iron Will turned away from the Velkari fleet and engaged her engines. The 6 warships hung in space watching as the small mining vessel disappeared into the darkness. 3 days later, General Thack sent a priority message to Velkari High Command. It was short and to the point. Request immediate revision of conquest. Protocols. Human species classification, dangerous when afraid. Recommend extreme caution in all future encounters. Fear gas ineffective. Standard boarding procedures ineffective. Suggest avoiding human space entirely. The message was filed in the military archives with a note. General Thax relieved of command pending psychological evaluation. But the word spread anyway. In cantinas and trading posts across the galaxy, the story was told and retold. The humans who had faced the Velkari fear gas and laughed. The miners who had defeated trained warriors. The species that got stronger when they were afraid. 6 months later, when the Iron Will docked at Earth Station Alpha, Jake and his crew were met by representatives from Human Colonial Command. Captain Morrison, the Admiral said, "We need to talk. It seems your little encounter has made quite an impression on our alien neighbors." Jake smiled as he watched his crew reunite with their families. Tom hugged his wife and children. Lisa held her baby daughter. Doc was surrounded by his grandchildren. Mary was kissing her husband. Ben was already telling his story to anyone who would listen. "Admiral," Jake said, "I think you'll find that humans have always been impressive. We just needed the right motivation to show it. And so the galaxy learned that there were some species you did not threaten, some beings you did not try to frighten, and some ships you did not attack. Because humans, when they were afraid for something they loved, were the most dangerous force in the universe. The Iron Will was strong. Her crew was strong. And the word was spreading that humanity was strong, too."